Hello. This loading screen is unreasonably long. Is it just me? Oh well. When I woke up, the clock hands was showing 11:45. How do you guys like this, by the way? I mean, me streaming visual novels. It's not something I've done before. And I'm not sure if people like listening to me read. So, let me know. Let me know if there's things I can do to make it more enjoyable, or I don't know. Maybe try to differentiate the voices a bit more. I don't want to, like make up voices for everyone, because I'm not gonna do that. So, yeah. Let me know if you have any tips, or if you like it, if you're okay with everything that I've been doing with streaming. Just any feedback at all is greatly appreciated. Apparently, I was so tired yesterday I forgot to set up the alarm. I didn't know how punctual Kagome was, but I absolutely couldn't get there late. It would be quite something if I did, to drag her into this and then not even show up. It was no less than half an hour's trip to the city center, and I needed to at least dress myself and visit a toilet before that. 5 minutes later, I ran out of the house at breakneck speed. Where you went to the toilet and got dressed in 5 minutes? Damn. Okay, that's something. How do you do that? How long would Kagome wait for me? Considering her character, I ran like the wind, dodging the few people I came across on the way. The streets weren't nearly as populated on Saturday noon as they were on weekdays. I managed to somehow get into the right running pace so as to lose neither my breath nor speed. Did I dress up right? Maybe I should have put on something more formal. I definitely had a black outfit for my parents' funeral. No, I'd look stupid in it. Everyone might be wearing suits in the business district, but I was clearly too young. And the color would be too mournful as well. A grey one would fit better if I wanted to disguise myself as an office rat. Although in just a few years I would probably have to merge with the indiscreet mass of these rats, running to sinking ships in the morning and scurrying to their mortgage holes in the evening. They're all living in some kind of economic bubble doomed to pop one day. People take loans to live better, work to pay the interest, take new loans to repair the old ones. The real value of money had long been replaced by zeros and ones in computer memory, after having ones replaced barter. The several thousand yen in my wallet wasn't actually worth anything. It hadn't been received in exchange for my labor, hadn't even been won in a lottery. More like, in a sense, they reflected my share of the collective wealth of Japan. But wealth itself doesn't appear out of thin air. It is created by humans. How many proprietors like that consider themselves rulers of the world? Their numbers were getting greater by day. Those convinced of their exponentialism, or exceptionalism, sorry, only because of multicolored pieces of paper and crooked signatures on bonds. What would I think had I been born into a rich family, I wondered. Like Ellie, for example. Or the other way around. What if my life had turned out like Iwamura's? Are there otherwise equal conditions and a lack of prospects? My main problem at the moment was my own self-loathing, while Kagome had to clash with real adult life every day. I doubted she had a bank account she could always take whatever money she needed from without having to work. Finally, the skyscrapers of the business district appeared up from around the corner. I quickly crossed the road, almost got hit by a car, and entered the park with agreed to meet in. Kagome was sitting on a bench, anxiously turning her head left and right. Ugh. Was panting, unable to talk properly. 14 minutes. Pointing her finger at the clock. Being late is 5-10 minutes. By 40, it's like you didn't come at all. I looked at the time. It really was 12:40. I was sure I was a better runner. But you're still here. And what if I left? But you didn't. Yeah, because I knew you wouldn't manage to get here on time. Why is that? She didn't respond. Just waved her hand at the clock once again. Alright, fine. But it was an accident. Usually I what? Skip school, sleep until 3 p.m. after a drinking spree, and can't remember what I had talked to Himitsu about. Well, maybe I had gotten somewhere on time on a couple occasions in the last couple years. What of it? Just sorry. Kagome looked at me from under her brows and smirked. Listen, enough already. Are you going to keep arguing over who's to blame, or are we going to do something useful? So, what's your plan? Plan? I thought you had one. We stood in the middle of the park, expensive cars driven by people in expensive suits sweeping past us. The suits are infallibly all grey. Here we go. I said in Russian and slowly sank down to the bench next to Kagome. Weren't you following me yesterday? Didn't you make me come here? Wait a minute, it was your idea. Yes, but it doesn't matter. The initiative was yours. Right, and no initiative goes unpunished. For starters, let's calm down. What do we know? I'm being threatened by some people, probably because my father used to work for Kobayashi Corporation. Your father also used to work for Kobayashi Corporation, and yesterday he was kidnapped. Moreover, here, in front of us, is the main office of Kobayashi Corporation. I let out a thoughtful sniff. Then that's where we'll go. Yeah, and then what? Think about it. 2 high school kids show up in the office of Japan's largest corporation and start to, haltingly, read out the synopsis of a shitty mystery novel. We'd be lucky to just get kicked out. I have no intention of just sitting here. You can do whatever you want. Kagome jerked herself up from the bench and, paying no attention to me, rapidly marched towards the Kobayashi Corporation building. Hey, wait! Having no other choice, I ran after her. That's Violet Evergarden. Let me click on her. Nothing happened. Fuck. What if I... Okay, so nothing happens if you click on them. It said it went up. I saw that arrow saying it goes up. Maybe I am insane. What I was saying, the inside of the building looked even more luxurious than I could imagine. The main hall ceiling had the height of a 4-story building. Oh, see, it went up to 9. 10? Nice. Abundance of light and glass. The reception seemingly the length of a football field. I felt pretty uncomfortable here. I couldn't take my eyes off of the numbers changing each other on the elevator's indicator panel. Yeah. 19, 21, 21. No, it's 13, bro. It says right there. What the fuck do you mean? Is it going to pass 100? Was all of this really going to belong to Ellie one day? The leather-bound girl bouncing around the stage with a guitar in her hands didn't seem to fit the role of the heir to a multi-million-dollar corporation. Hey. Kagome jerked me by my sleeve. Yeah, sorry. Couldn't get my eyes off all this. Never seen anything like that, even on TV. Me neither, but that's not what we're here for. Oh, look, there's another elevator here. Left. You can actually see my mouse cursor. I think about it. You don't know where I'm pointing at. That sucks. She resolutely headed to the girl with an unnatural smile on her face, sitting behind the reception desk. That's Violet Evergarden, bro. I caught up and stood in her way. What are you even doing? It's true that we need to learn the truth, but figure things out, but not like that. You look like a terrorist right now. They'll just call the police and that'll be the end of it. But Kagome wasn't about to back down. In her eyes I could see a determination completely unexpected from a girl her age. Get out of the way. Whatever. Let out a sigh. In for a penny, in for a pound. The uniform of the receptionist resembled a stewardess, while the girl herself hardly looked Japanese. Hello, welcome to Kobayashi Corporation. How can I help? She jabbered out her memorized line in English. We... Kagome's confidence faltered at the most important moment. After approaching the desk, she started to hesitate and stammer. My name is Iwamura Kagome, and we... Wait, why is that? Why is that blue? Japanese culture, one's surname is usually given before the first name and not the other way around. Okay, I knew that. She looked at me as if looking for support. This whole affair had seemed like a stupid idea to me from the very beginning, but Kagome's pitiful eyes compelled me to act. I was too easy to manipulate with guilt. Hello, we'd like to talk. I mean, I wasn't doing any better. I had to pull myself together. Taking a deep breath, I started from the beginning. You see, her father used to work here, and he's been missing since yesterday. Maybe you could help us? We're looking for the contact information of his former colleagues or superiors. Anything? We cannot provide such information. The girl answered after a short pause, her smile much less cordial. Of course, we understand, but it's important. He wasn't responding. Listen, it's not a commercial secret or anything. I'm sorry, we cannot make it so you can. Kagome shouted, hitting the desk with a clenched fist. It looked like she just needed a little push. That's what I gave her by starting the conversation. Your people took him yesterday, in the middle of the day, for everyone to see. If you don't know, find someone who does. Miss, please. Mind your voice. The girl looked scared. Quiet, you. Oh, sorry. I thought we were talking to the receptionist. I whispered to Kagome. Now we totally look like a couple of Tokyo thugs. I won't move from here until you give me my father back. She lowered her voice slightly, while the girl was making a call to someone. Well, happy now? She's probably calling the police. So what? I'm not breaking any laws, and I know my civil rights. Uh-huh, rights, sure. Violent men, women don't have any. Bro, I was watching the elevators, and they don't go past 20. He said 19, 20, 21. They don't go to 21, bro. The fuck? They go up to 18. Please wait on the sofa. A staff member will be down to see you shortly. The girl said in a shaking voice. See? The truth has triumphed. Kagome proclaimed victoriously. For some reason, I didn't share her confidence. Oh, there is 20. Okay, I'm sorry. It is 21. Sorry, I'm just a dumbass, I guess. 5 minutes later, a man came out of an elevator and headed towards us. His clothes were hardly different from those of any other employee at Kobayashi Corporation, but the cold, hard eyes and the stern expression on his face made it clear he certainly wasn't an accountant. Bro, the Yakuza. Oh my god, bro, the Yakuza are here. Oh, what the fuck? Good day. My name is Kagemaru. I gave a slight nod. Bro, he knows my name. I never gave him my name. He knows who I am. Oh my god, bro. Anokin-san. You have been asked to come upstairs for a conversation. What, me? What do I have to do with any of this? Yeah, he has nothing to do with this. It's my father who has been kidnapped. Kagome flared up, having previously sat silently with a deadpan expression. Please calm down, Iwamura-san. Your father has not been kidnapped. If you wait here... I'm not going to wait here. I'm going with him. She jumped up from the sofa and stomped her foot. You have not been invited, Iwamura-san. So what? It's about my father. Really now, why would it be me? It looked like my suspicions about my parents' work weren't unfounded. I was no less involved in whatever was happening than Kagome. Wait. I lightly touched her shoulder with my hand. We've been seen by dozens of people here. What, are they going to lead me into a cell in the middle of the day and shoot me dead? That would be too much, even for Kobayashi. I'll go. Lead the way. But... don't worry, I'll learn all I can, and come back. I leaned down to Kagome and whispered into her ear. They aren't giving us any other options anyway, so stop arguing. Otherwise we won't learn anything at all. See, try to accommodate a little bit what's happening. Kagome gave me an angry look, but apparently decided there was nothing she could do. He turned around and said, Do what you want. The elevator's ascent seemed endless. Unobtrusive music played inside, and I eyed the glowing button with penthouse written on it, my head empty like a Buddhist monk in meditation. Agimaru stood motionless, staring ahead of himself. Were this a guess his profession quiz, I would have answered Hitman without a second thought and probably won the jackpot. The elevator finally stopped, the doors opened, and we appeared in a spacious room with a panoramic view of Tokyo. Let's go. The window, his back turned to me, stood an old man in a kimono. Most likely Kobayashi-jun, Ellie's grandfather. He seemed to not have noticed us, occupied with the city sprawl far below. Did he really not notice, or did he just think us unworthy of his attention? As far as I knew, he'd created this empire from nothing. I wondered if he, while still a boy, imagined that many years later he'd observe his domain from 100 floors up. Hundreds of meters, kilometers, millions of dollars, billions of yen. He was separated from the common people by the same abyss that once separated farmers from their gods. But why me? To what did I owe the honor? Kobayashi-sama. Agimaru bowed deeply. You may go. The old man slowly turned around and ran a disinterested eye over me. Meanwhile, Agimaru disappeared behind a door. Is your name Nikolai? Yes, Kobayashi-san. Sama. He ignored my confusion, and I felt disgusted about my hesitation. Maybe I truly stood before the all-powerful Kobayashi-jun. But for me, really? He was just an old man. Ellie's grandfather at best. I tried to calm down. Your father worked hard for the good of our company. Did you know him? Not personally. But I value each employee's contribution to the common cause. Empty words and nothing else. Another way to make people work themselves to death. Ideals have long been known to be better motivators than money. He walked up to the table and sank heavily into the armchair, gesturing for me to sit opposite him. Why am I here? It was brought to my attention that Iwamura-san's father has come into some trouble. Trouble? Is that what it's called nowadays? And as the two of you have come here together, I thought it would be easier to explain things to you alone. It was as if he knew about Kagome's somewhat headstrong personality. I'm listening. What else was there to do? As you might know, Akira-san used to work for our company, but was fired. I nodded. You see, he took with him important information that does not belong to him. We wish to have our property back, and thus had to invite Akira-san for a private conversation. Trouble, private conversation. All these euphemisms were making me feel uncomfortable. But do not worry. Neither Iwamura-san nor her grandfather are related to this unfortunate incident in any way. But let him go when he gives everything back? I asked sheepishly. Of course, have no doubt. A semblance of a smile appeared on Kobayashi-san's face. What if... I couldn't finish the question. He seemed to be playing with me like a tiger with his prey, lulling me with his calm and polite manners just to tear me apart the next second. You understand the importance of keeping quiet about this? Yes, of course. It's even more important to make sure Iwamura-san behaves properly and calmly awaits her father's return. Yes, I understand. His passionless face and flat voice were much scarier than Kagemaru's hidden aggression. There were thousands of thugs like him, but they only had one master. Of course you do, my boy. This time Kobayashi-san's smile was real. If I'm not mistaken, you study at the same school as my granddaughter, Elizabeth. Elizabeth? In a different situation, I would have found this funny. Yes. You know each other? Not that well. We've met. Splendid. Splendid? What could be splendid about it? I hope our insurance for your parents' death is enough to cover your expenses. Insurance? So that's where the money in my father's account came from. I always suspected he couldn't have earned so much himself, but I was afraid to acknowledge it. Yes, of course. Thank you. What a terrible tragedy. No money could compensate for such a loss. Why did he drag my parents into this? The note? The calls? Now I was convinced it was all the work of Kobayashi Corporation and its head, Kobayashi-jun. But it's not like an antelope can demand recognition of its rights from a lion. All it can do is run. I try to live on. That's right, that's right. You still have your whole life ahead of you. Most important thing is to keep yourself from making too many mistakes while you're young. Now go. Go. He smiled once again and called Kagemaru. We were going down, and the damned elevator song started to get on my nerves. I shifted from foot to foot. Did you understand everything Kobayashi-sama said? Of course. It would be hard not to. I snarled. Through a conversation with the old man, Kagemaru didn't scare me in the slightest. That's how it should be. And explain it to your girlfriend. We'll see that you do. I guess an angry glance at him. He was almost a head shorter than me, and even looked comical with that Yakuza grin on his face and the tattoos visible under the collar of his shirt. Yeah, tattoo sign of Yakuza. I know. The elevator arrived at the first floor. Doors opened, and I saw Kagome sitting right where I had left her. Violet Evergarden is still there as well. I didn't know if I should tell her what we had talked about, Kobayashi-san. I was just afraid it could all turn out to be true. Kagome, our family took first priority. How would she take the news of her father being a spy, basically a thief? I didn't even know his true motives. And even if it were to turn out he was innocent, if he'd been taken for an entirely different reason, what of it? How could we help him? Going to the police would be useless. But I had absolutely no desire to lie to this sincere, albeit a bit too straightforward girl. What would I have done had my parents' fate had been hidden away from me? Come on. Kagemaru slightly pushed me in the back. I clenched my fist so hard it hurt, but left the elevator without looking back. I had a decision to make. A decision important both for me and Kagome. Meanwhile, she stood up and quickly walked to me. Well, here I am. My voice didn't sound half as friendly as I wanted. I was starting to think you wouldn't be coming back. Kagome sarcastically flung her hands up. As if I'd be able to escape from you. Well, how did it go? Tell me. I hadn't really decided what I was about to say. Standing silent wasn't an option either. Okay, so we know this is an important choice. They again have said this. This is a very important choice. But, you know me, always the truth. We never lie. You better sit down. Indian, Kagome deserves to know the truth. Why? She asked angrily but took a seat. I met Kobayashi-jun. Kagome was clearly surprised, and I immediately answered her honest question. Yeah, that one. And he said, how do I even put it? Just don't worry. He said your father stole some secret information. Do you believe him? She asked coldly. What does it matter if I did or I didn't? I don't know the entire situation. They believed me. My father would never do something like that. His work meant everything to him. Not the best argument, to be honest. Then why are they accusing my father a year and a half later? Wait a second. A year and a half? Yeah, that's when he was fired. My parents died a year and a half ago too. That can't be a coincidence. Do you believe me? It was as if she absolutely needed me to believe her. I don't even trust myself anymore. Just a week ago, my life was clear and simple. And what now? At least your father's alive. I'm sure he is. Although Kagome didn't react to the double meaning of my words in any way. Also, what do they need from me? Why did the director of Kobayashi Corporation himself have an audience with me? Doesn't it all seem strange to you? Yes. She frowned. And what do you suggest? I'm at least sure they have a certain interest in us. Otherwise they wouldn't even have had this talk. Yeah, I guess. She seemed to have calmed down a bit and was starting to see the situation without a haze of emotion. But I can't just sit and wait. To me, that seemed like the best course of action. But to say something like that to Kagome directly would mean another tantrum from her. And we won't. Again, what do you suggest? I hadn't really thought about that. By the way, who was that man? His name was Kagemaru. I don't know. But it seems like he's not used to solving problems with swords. With words, not swords. Damn. I think he's more used to solving them with swords than words. And don't you think it's weird that the corporation is so interested in you? Of course it is. And I'd really like to know why. I should have come with you. I would have given that old man hell. For the first time today, she genuinely smiled. Think you'd scare him? He's got one of his own. Ellie from our school. Kagome let out a contemptuous sniff. What can she do? She's been fussed over and pampered like a child her entire life. She probably can't even cook. Well, maybe she can't. I was sure she had an army of chefs for that. What if she's good at something else? Like what? I don't know. Music? I answered ambiguously. I see you know her well. I don't know her at all. She's got nothing to do with it anyway. Why so hasty? If something happened to the director's precious granddaughter, I'm sure he'd sing a very different tune. Come on, let's be constructive. Let's. She lazily sprawled back on the sofa, her legs crossed. I need to talk to my father's colleague, the one I told you about yesterday. I'm almost sure he knows more than he told me. Don't you think he might be part of the conspiracy? Oh, stop it already. We'd find us important enough to scheme around. Yeah, there's something strange going on, but we're just a small part of it. You just don't know what my father was working on. Kagome said quietly. And what was it? I can't say. So you don't trust me? Same as you. I don't even trust myself anymore. He smiled sadly. I just don't understand much about it myself. And we should figure things out together. Let's go. I stretched my hand out to Kagome. Go where? My place. What? He looked surprised. Even embarrassed. Can't we call from a phone booth? You think I remember all phone numbers by heart? I don't have that great a head for numbers in the first place. Fine, just... Her eyes darted back and forth across the hall as if looking for support. Just what? Nothing. Let's go. It's going to get dark soon. I noted in my mind that it was only 2:30, but decided not to argue. How far do you live? I need to be home for dinner. Well, running here took me about half an hour, or a bit over that. I smiled broadly, and she made a surprised face. Running? You bet. You wouldn't have to run if you timed things properly. You know what? Well, she probably didn't. We can use the subway. It'll take about the same time-wise, though. Well, I'm certainly not going to run. We were already about to leave when Kagimara approached us. Wait, aren't you forgetting something? I don't think so. Kobayashi-sama wants to help Iwamura-san find her father. We will now go to the police. You will tell everything to the detectives. What? We aren't... This is not a request. He looked at me formidably from under his brows. I exchanged glances with Kagome and the two of us followed him. We were questioned for at least several hours. Our testimonies were carefully documented, and then we were let go. Kagimara drove us right to Kobayashi Corporation's office and opened the car's doors at the main entrance. Asshole. Kagome shouted after him and gave him the middle finger. Quiet, you. You want to go back to the police station? What was this performance all about in the first place? They know where my father is. To scare us, I think. If the old man's hints weren't enough. It worked. Kagome shivered. I've never been to a police station before. But it's time for everything. Let's go now. We've already lost enough time. He looked at the clock. It's so late already. I won't get back in time. Oh, come on. What's more important? Dinner or your father? I can't leave Grandpa alone. He's got nobody else left. I was seized by an inquisitive urge and found it hard to just stop. It's your decision. I'm not the only one who needs this. Kagome gave me a piteous look. You think I'll be able to get home before it gets dark? I don't know. I answered honestly. Fine. Let's go. The decision clearly didn't come easy to her. Evening was drawing near. We left the subway when the sun had already started to disappear behind the roofs of the local houses. What is this pose, bro? Kagome looked around in surprise and asked. But this is the station near our school. Yeah, something wrong? Do you live here? Well, yeah, for almost as long as I can remember in Japan. I see. Why? Nothing? Go already, time's ticking. Snarled. Here we are. Kagome carefully looked around my street, the yard, Finally, the house itself. You don't have it that bad. Quite a mansion. And in the city center, too. You understand it's not on my own merits, right? Does it make a difference? God, no, not at all. Why do you have to pick at every single word you hear? Who lives there? Kagome suddenly asked, pointing at Himitsu's house. There? What do you ask? We were constantly throwing glances in that direction while we walked. Listen, maybe it's you who's spying on me? You're good at it. You always have to keep your eyes peeled. What if the corporation's henchmen are watching you from there? No one's watching me from there. It's Himitsu's house. The redhead from school? Yes. Now go. I opened the door with my key and quickly stepped inside, while Kagome remained standing at the doorstep. Well, maybe I'll wait here? Stop it already. I've just never been, to a guy's house. God fucking damn it. I growled through clenched teeth, turning away so she wouldn't hear me. If I wanted to rape someone, you'd be last on the list of potential candidates. Why would you make me read this? Listen, I do not condone anything the main character says. The words are coming from my mouth, but they are not my words, okay? Just to be clear on this. Why, thank you. Kagome responded in a rude voice and pushed me aside, entering the house. Bro, what the fuck? Bro, why? Why? Okay. Whatever. You want something to drink? Water? Tea? Maybe whiskey? Water, please. Answered quietly. With a gesture, I offered her to sit behind the table. Is there nobody else here? Who else would there be? My parents died a year and a half ago, didn't I tell you? You did. The awkward pause lingered in the air. So it's just the two of us now? As you can see. He noticeably fidgeted in the chair. Well, are you going to call? I put a glass of water in front of her. Of course I will, but let me at least catch my breath a bit. Kagome's expression saddened, and she didn't even snap back. This whole situation seemed to be really stressing her out. Alright, sorry. I dragged the telephone from the hallway and started flipping through the telephone book. This person's name is Ichinose-san. I saw him a couple times when I was younger, but I can't say anything specific. Ichinose, you say? Kagome looked thoughtful. I think I've heard that surname somewhere before. Not really surprising. Our fathers both worked for the corporation. What was your dad's job? I was a chemist. Worked on alternative sources of energy. Interesting. Well, my father was an engineer, but I don't really know what Ichinose-san's position was. Get closer. You're listening to. Kagome hesitated for a second, but ended up moving her chair and bringing her ear so close to the receiver that we were touching cheeks. Let's go. Phones with speakers haven't been invented yet, so bear with me. I said apologetically. Bro. Come on, stop breaking the wall like that. Long note sounded, then a second, and another one, but nobody was answering. Finally, a frightened female voice came from the other end of the line. Hello? Good evening. May I talk to Ichinose-san? Ichinose-san? The woman drew the name out painfully. He hasn't been home for 2 days. Do you know where he is? Who is this? I didn't respond. I looked at Kagome. Put a finger to her lips and shook her head. Hello? Do you know where my husband is? Give him back. I hung up the phone. We were sitting in silence for at least several minutes. So what do we do now? How would I know? Was this Ichinose-san your last hope? There's always hope. My words obviously didn't reassure Kagome much. But yeah, I was counting on him. How did they even know? Maybe they tapped his phone? Or yours? Having my phone conversation would bring about as many results as the CETI project. Okay, the CETI project. And the fact that these aren't in order, bro. Search for extraterrestrial intelligence is a collective term for scientific searches for intelligent extraterrestrial life and possibly getting in contact with it. Okay. He grinned sadly. The corporation is damn good at covering its tracks though. But then why are we still... Don't think about it. But just don't. We're fine, and we'll keep being fine. Who was I trying to calm down more? Her? Or myself? Sorry. Kagome looked me right in the eye. I don't usually act like this. And I'm usually not that emotional and, well, tempered. I just don't have anyone besides my father and granddad. When Mom died, it seemed like my life was over. I don't want to go through that again. It's alright. I understand. I really didn't expect her to start apologizing. I immediately felt uncomfortable. Once again, I noted that out of the two of us, Kagome had it worse. I'll help you find your father. Thank you. She smiled genuinely. Nico-kun, are you home? Himitsu's voice sounded from the outside. Kagome gave me a questioning look. Okay, I'll be right back. I should go already. Wait just a minute. Gave a slight nod. I ran into the hallway and blocked Himitsu's path, preventing her from going further. Are you not alone, Nico-kun? No, why'd you think so? I let out a stupid laugh. Why was I lying to her again? The girl's shoes. Is it Cathy-chan? Catherine? What? No. Himitsu slipped under my arm and walked into the kitchen while I dragged myself after her. Kagome, meet Himitsu. Good evening. Gave a dry greeting. Sorry for interrupting you, Amuro-senpai. You aren't interrupting anything. We were just... What? Doing homework? There was a higher chance Himitsu would believe me we were studying the Kama Sutra. We've got a joint out-of-class project, Kagome said without a shadow of hesitation in her voice. Yeah, right. A project. Is that so? Himitsu curled her lips into an artificial smile. Then I really shouldn't interrupt. Sorry I didn't warn you. She didn't respond. Gave Kagome a cold and extremely formal goodbye and left. Wait a minute. I caught up to Himitsu on the street. In a different situation, I probably wouldn't have cared what she thought, but now only an idiot wouldn't realize that the person I was supposed to meet today was Kagome. That's not what it looks like. And what does it look like, Nico-kun? Her face was expressionless, like a kabuki mask, aka Japanese theater mask. I would guess. In any case, let's talk about this tomorrow. I'm busy cleaning tomorrow. On Monday. Then on Monday. Himitsu responded in the same cold way and calmly headed home. When I returned, Kagome asked, why the hell would you have to warn her? Actually, yeah. What kind of relationship are the two of you in? Relationship? Well, we've known each other since childhood. And as you can see, we live right across from each other. So, childhood friends and nothing but? Yes, nothing but. Why all the questions? Just interested, since you're... Stop. In Japanese, the formal U sounded too impersonal. Got a name, you know. Nikolai. I've told you. But... stop with the Japanese conventions. Especially since I'm not Japanese. Fine, Nikolai. I was finally mispronouncing the I. Oof. No, not like that. They call me what Himitsu does. Nico-kun. No way, we're not that close. Well, yeah, I guess. Nico-san. I felt somewhat flustered. It wasn't often that I was regarded so respectfully. Let's go with that. Now I really need to go. She stood up and waited for me to see her off as was appropriate. Too bad we didn't manage to find out anything today. That's not true. We learned a lot about the corporation, about Kobayashi-jun. It's a good start. Didn't take you for an optimist. I'm a realist, and this seems to be a pretty adequate assessment of the situation. Well, maybe you're right. So then, till later? Wait, let me at least see you to the station, I offered. Don't. I don't think I'm in any danger in the middle of the city. Kagome smiled me a farewell, waved her hand, and ran off. I returned to the kitchen, sat down at the table, and only then realized how terribly tired I was. There was a bottle of hard whiskey tucked away in the closet. Bro, I'm an alcoholic, bro. I'm an asshole and an alcoholic. At the age of 18. Bro, am I gonna get better? I poured myself a glass and looked through it at the sun that had already almost disappeared beyond the horizon. You're not as simple as you look, Iwamura Kagome. I was obviously not happy with the current situation. But sorting it out together still promised to be easier than doing it alone. Luckily, I would be doing it with Kagome instead of someone else. Watching some meaningless talk show on the TV, I quickly got hammered and soon blacked out. Bro, oh my fucking god, bro. Bro, these loading screens. When does it rain? I wondered. Not in the scientific sense, but from the rain's perspective, why does it do it? In its place, I'd say in the clouds, closer to the stars. It had rained during the night. Rain is a great sleep companion. In the morning, I felt rested. Even the hangover spared me. Today was Sunday, which meant Himits was busy cleaning. I wouldn't get breakfast. Though it wasn't about the breakfast at all. I had to explain myself to her somehow. But I definitely wasn't going to tell her about Kagome and what I had learned yesterday in Kobayashi Corporation's offices. There was no need to drag Himitsu into this. And that wasn't the only reason. Well then, I intended to tackle the problems as they came. I made scrambled eggs yet again, and started to eat them with gusto, having poured a generous amount of soy sauce on top. Was there soy sauce in Russia? I wondered. I was quite used to it by now. A doorbell. Had Himitsu found a time to visit me after all? But all I found was Kagome at my doorstep. Hi. Looked stiff and avoided looking me in the eye. Well, hello. What brings you here? We need to talk about something. Alright, come in. Want some tea? Yes, thank you. Oh, that's unexpected. I uttered the thought out loud. I don't want to bother you. If you... It's all good. Come on in. Kagome was focused on drinking the now cold tea and was clearly gathering her strength to begin the conversation. Today she looked much more confident and wasn't so embarrassed being alone with me in my home. I know we'd only known each other for a couple of days. Was she really that easy to get through to? I spent the entire night thinking about yesterday. And I think I know what we should do next. And that is... Remember how you mentioned Kobayashi Jun's granddaughter? Ellie, I think? Yes, what about her? She's his granddaughter. What's there to understand? I know that, but what do you want from her? Think Grandpa confides with her about his affairs? I don't, but... Or do you want to threaten her? I just want to talk. Kagome's expression grew darker and she started to look more like herself. I don't see the point. Fine, if you don't want to help... She stood up, clearly expecting me to stop her. Or just something else? Kagome let out a displeased huff and sat back down. You do understand I have no one else to turn to, right? And you know her too. I've already told you I don't. She at least knows you by sight. Iwamura seemed to ignore my words. Did she realize I was lying? Sure, I won't say I was friends with Ellie, but I at least said hello to her on the street. Even if I wanted to, I don't think... What? Oh, and I don't. And I think this is a dumb idea, mind you. But even if I wanted to, I don't know her well enough to simply come up to her at school and... then call her. Kagome interrupted me. How's that better? You think I know her number? Well, find it then. Kagome's behavior began to seem like that of a capricious child. And who would tell it to me? Is there really no one? I thought for a moment. I guess Kyosuke could know. He had a dossier on each and every, even somewhat notable character at our school. And Kobayashi Ellie probably had the biggest one. Would it be a good idea to involve him? Maybe. Then what are you waiting for? Kagome asked with a smile inappropriate for the situation. Okay, fine. But if something goes wrong, I'll say it was your idea. Kyosuke picked up almost immediately. Hello. He drawled in a disgusting manner. Hi, it's me. Gotta ask you something. Oh, Nick. Hey, what is it? By the way, I got my hands on a certain videotape. And it's really something. Oh, hell yeah. Porn was the last thing I cared about right now. I hadn't come up with a good enough excuse for needing Ellie's number. I wasn't sure it was even possible to think of something believable in such a short time. I'll give it to you straight. I need Kobayashi Ellie's telephone number. Yosuke took a little while to respond. But when he did, he shouted. Nick, you old Casanova. I knew she sunk into your heart after that time in the cafeteria. Can you just tell me if you have her number or not? I may. But you do understand. Information like this isn't easy to come by. It's worth a pretty penny. Or gainful barter. What do you want? He seemed to think about it. Let it be a favor. And then you return it when I need one. Deal. And also, don't tell anyone I ask you for it. Understand? Why, that's not in my best interest. He giggled and read aloud Ellie's number. Well, happy now? I let out a sigh of relief after putting down the phone. For this, I was now in Kyosuke's debt. Debt? Debt, I mean. See? It wasn't as hard as you were playing it up to be. Playing up? The dumb smile on my face was mostly a result of genuine surprise. So, I was playing it up? Why, thank you. Whatever, let's call. The phone stared at me with its 10 holes and seemed to be grinning. I had absolutely no idea what I'd say to Ellie. Meanwhile, Kagome was sitting nearby, immediately attempting to telepathically communicate her displeasure and impatience. Eventually, I couldn't bear with it either. Snatched up the phone and resolutely dialed the number. A response didn't come for a long, painfully long time. Finally, an old man's voice sounded from the receiver. Kobayashi Estate. No, it definitely wasn't Kobayashi-jun. His voice seemed to have been ingrained into my mind forever. Hello, my surname is Anokin, and I'd like to talk to Kobayashi with Ellie-san. Please wait a minute. The voice dispassionately responded. I covered the receiver with my hand and whispered to Kagome. It didn't even take a minute. Hello? Hi, it's Anokin. We've met. I was mumbling like an 8th grader on his first date. Ah, the school bore. Hi, what brings you? She responded merrily, without a shred of surprise in her voice. I didn't know what to say now. Give it here. Kagome roughly took the receiver out of my hands. Roughly and so quickly that I had no time to react. This is Iwamura Kagome, Nico-san's classmate. You don't know me, but I know who you are. I know you're Kobayashi-jun's granddaughter. What I need from you is for your family, for your goddamn corporation to give back my father. I couldn't hear how Ellie responded and could only guess. Even then, you can still talk to him. Really? Kagome's lips stretched into an evil smile. Maybe I can't do much, but I'm fully capable of putting a princess like you in her place. Oh, is that so? Then come and let's talk face to face. To Nico-san's house. None of your business what I'm doing here. Oh no. Just you wait. Do you want the entire school to find out about your hobby? Doesn't matter how I know. You better be here in an hour. What's your address? Kagome asked me. I limply told her. I'm waiting. She hung up. How do you know that? I didn't even have the time to finish. That she pretends to be a rock star? Kagome smugly asked. Yes. Wasn't hard to find out. For my father, I'm ready to do anything. Indeed, Ellie wasn't exactly trying to hide. Not that she could, performing in clubs packed with people. But then why fear should be found out about at school? They would anyway, but the later the better. I need to be careful around you. You bet. Alright then. Let's wait. Kagome was staring into space, sitting on the chair, barely even blinking. In the end, my composure snapped and I started to walk circles around the kitchen. You don't seem to be nervous at all. Wait. My son just died from... What? Oh no, he didn't. He died. Would it help? He calmly asked. What would? Nothing. Although... He took the plate with the unfinished eggs from the table and cautiously sniffed it. Using yourself to test biological weapons? You know what? It's perfectly edible. Kagome smirked in good nature. I immediately lost faith in my culinary skills. We can eat while we wait. 10 minutes later, the table housed a full lunch with several dishes. Bro, how? 10 minutes. They tasted at least no worse than Himitsu's, but worked with much more professionally. I was just about to compliment Kagome, then he said it wasn't the time or the place. She knew full well she was a good cook. Thank you. It was very good. I limited myself to a polite thank you. You bet. He grinned and started to clean the table. Let me at least wash the dishes. Can you? You wouldn't believe it. Half an hour later, the doorbell rang. Kagome looked at the clock and thoughtfully said, Preciseness is the politeness of kings. Punctuality, not preciseness. Thought, but kept my mouth shut. Soon, the three of us were sitting in my kitchen. I introduced the girls to each other. But what next? There was no sense in trying to think that I had no choice but wasn't to blame. Even if Kagome's actions were sometimes almost impossible to predict, Ellie still had absolutely nothing to do with it. And I was still going to end up being the scapegoat. I was the one Kobayashi-Jun had warned. The girls stood at different sides of the kitchen, refusing to look at each other. Ellie folded her arms over her chest, carefully studying my garden. Kagome meanwhile languidly crossed her legs and stared at me in anticipation, implying that I was the master of the house and the ball was in my court. Girls, how about tea? Your tea isn't poison, but I'd rather not drink it more than I have to. Kagome sniffed, while Ellie addressed me with a smile. I'd like some, thank you. The teapot still held enough of the morning's brew, but offering something like that to guests, one of which had her own restaurant, would be disrespectful even to myself. I quickly cleaned out the remnants and poured in fresh hot water. Meanwhile, Ellie sat down opposite from Kagome and seemed to be trying to destroy the latter with a glare. Bad move. So what did you want to talk about, Iwamura-san? Your tantrum earlier wasn't exactly informative. There was no tantrum. Kagome was about to go off again, but managed to collect herself. My father used to work for your grandfather's company, and not simply work. He dedicated his entire life to it. You people didn't just fire him, but kidnapped him in the middle of the day. You probably have nothing to do with it and don't even know what your grandfather is capable of. But that doesn't matter. In history, there are plenty of tyrants to answer for their sins together with their families. Did she prepare this speech in advance? So what do you propose? Would you send me to the guillotine? Ellie smirked. I just wanted you to talk with your grandfather. I guess Kagome didn't have a tangible plan. I didn't even really know what she wanted from Ellie. What am I supposed to tell him? That some petulant girl accused him of who knows what? I shouldn't call the police. Now that was definitely a bad idea. Girls? I'm sorry. Well, you know, I'm here as well. I shyly tried to interfere. Go on, do it. Here's a tea. Ladies? Kagome didn't even look at me, while Ellie accepted the cup with gratitude. Thank you. So she immediately moved it away and continued the verbal skirmish. Are you sure it wasn't your imagination? You know, we have a good hospital. I can ask a psychiatrist to see you. Is sarcasm all you're capable of? Do you think you're better than me? Then why is that? Just because you have money and power? Not at all. I just don't attack people for no reason. Kagome bit her lip and turned away for a second. I had a choice. Yesterday we went to the offices of Kobayashi Corporation but didn't manage to achieve anything. We went? You mean you and... Ellie gave me a questioning look. Not an angry one, but seemingly chastising. I immediately felt ashamed, as if I had kicked the ball into the neighbor's yard and climbed that tray without permission. Yeah, we did. Don't get it wrong, it's true that Kagome doesn't always express herself sensibly, but her father really is in trouble. Trouble? He didn't seem to have chosen the best word for it either. Doesn't always? Sensibly? Each one of them seemed to hear only what she wanted to hear, with Kagome finally seeming to have noticed I was in the room too. So what happened to her father? He was taken by some people. I agreed with Kagome, but with the way she had treated Ellie, it was hard to stand with her as a united front. It was even harder to choose words that wouldn't upset Ellie. We think that Kagome's father was taken because of his work for Kobayashi Corporation. And you too, Ellie said sadly. Because it's the truth. How many times do we need to say it for you to understand? I can't believe that, Grandpa. You seem to think about it for a moment. Why should I believe you without any evidence? What evidence do you need? My father's body with his fingers cut? Again, the Yakuza thing. If you want to say that we are thugs or something, that's just laughable. Kobayashi Corporation is known all over the world. To think that because of a single employee... Single employee? You don't know who my father was, what he did for you. True, I don't. Ellie calmly responded. He was a scientist, a talented scientist, maybe even a genius. Then why would we kidnap him? I immediately remember her grandfather telling me that Kakume's father had stolen the corporation's secrets. That's what I want you to tell me. Here we go again. Aren't you tired of it? Ellie addressed me. Well, her father did disappear. I responded unsurely. What does that have to do with me? If she thinks we're at fault here, let her file a police report. Against Kobayashi Corporation, known all over the world? Kagome smirked. For the first time in this conversation, Ellie obviously realized Kagome was right about something and frowned. In any case, I know nothing about it. See nothing, hear nothing, say nothing? Another point for Kagome. Though at the start of the conversation I felt guilty for my indecisiveness, now I clearly understood that it was a bad idea to interfere. But Kagome thought otherwise. Why are you just standing there? Me? What about me? Yesterday we were there together. By the way, he was the one who talked to your grandfather. Is that true? Ellie asked with surprise. Things kind of happened that way. She looked at Kagome. But I told you our conversation in detail. And after you talked with Grandpa, you still intend to support her nonsense? Ellie asked with indignation. Not really. Come on, tell her what you talked about Kobayashi Jun yesterday. I knew perfectly well that she was right. Moreover, Ellie's grandfather had admitted that his people took Kagome's father. But what did any of that have to do with Ellie? Nothing, obviously. Not to mention, yesterday Kobayashi Jun had given me clear orders to keep an eye on Kagome's behavior, and definitely wouldn't be happy that we dragged his granddaughter into this. On the other hand, I felt an acute sense of guilt, duty, and an annoying need to do the right thing. Even if it was only the right thing from Kagome's perspective. I had to help find her father. The girls were looking at me impatiently. I had to make a decision. Bro, I have to support Kagome, bro. I'm sorry. I'll save. But I have to. Support Ellie. What do you mean support Ellie? Support her in what? That Kobayashi Jun is innocent? Bro, it's not true. Let's calm down for a start. Shouting an insult will get us nowhere. Spill it already. Ellie was looking at me with distrust. Fine. After all, I was simply telling the truth. Ellie, yesterday your grandfather really did admit that his people had taken Kakume's father. It was definitely a bad idea to mention that the latter had stolen some kind of secrets from the corporation. What are you saying? He wasn't really upset, just surprised. It's true. But why? Because of his work. Why else? Kagome rudely interrupted me. So what was he working on? Don't know. I'm not a scientist. Even if so, what do you want from me? Ellie asked after a pause, her voice much less certain. You could talk to your grandfather. About what? Don't you understand I'm not privy to his business? Your story still sounds implausible. But just try to put yourself in Kagome's shoes. How would you feel? He seemed to think about it for a moment, but then assumed a haughty expression and said, Me? In her place? Why would I? Yeah, that's just how you are. Your entire family. Fucking heaven dwellers. I'm just not used to holding out a tin cup like a beggar. You. Nope, not happening. Enough already. I raised my voice. Ellie, seriously, nobody's trying to belittle you here. We simply don't know who else to turn to. Maybe her father won't be harmed. Maybe there were even reasons to take him. But that's not the point right now. Then what is? Again, I unwittingly switched to plural. But the desire to help Kagome burned in me stronger than ever. Ellie insisted on not understanding, not even trying to understand what was going on. She just kept pretending to be a capricious young lady, and I was starting to get fed up with that. Even if there was nothing she could do for us to act like this, we were simply doing everything in our power. We have few prospects and absolutely no allies. What do you care? Ellie asked with a grin. She was probably implying that if I was helping Kagome, there had to be something between us. There was no reason to dissuade her. I definitely didn't want to talk about my parents and hoped that Kagome wouldn't either. Is that so important? No, not at all. But the two of you are starting to resemble blackmailers or something. What? No, we aren't. You totally are. You're demanding that I do something. What if I refuse? No, seriously. I'll have you know that my bodyguards know where I am. And if I don't come back, stop talking nonsense, I shouted. At that moment, Ellie's behavior seemed much more irrational to me than Kagome's. Even though it would be foolish to deny that her words made me think, it even made me scared. Seriously, what the hell were we doing? So if you don't mind, I'll go. Kagome didn't respond. He silently sat there, studying the cracks in the wall with a vacant stare. I'll see you off. Listen, I'm sorry that things turned out this way. We were standing in the hallway, Ellie putting on her shoes, the price of which probably equaled the monthly income of Kagome's restaurant. I'm not making any excuses, but we probably went too far. Probably. You shouldn't tell your grandpa or anyone else about this. She gave me a careful look and smiled. Why were you standing up for her like that? There are reasons. Reasons between the two of you? No. Personal reasons. Fine. Then your first offense is forgiven. Ciao. Ellie left the house almost fluttering in her snow-white dress. Well, happy now? I said to Kagome as they returned to the kitchen. Yes, quite. Except we haven't achieved anything. Only made things worse. Why do you think that? Because Ellie's about to tell her grandfather everything. Think he'll be happy? I think that he'll at the very least think about it. If something happens to us after that, what will his dear grandfather think? There was some logic to her words, and I was sure Ellie wasn't going to say anything anyway. You're so... Ugh. Whatever. I let out a sigh and sat down on a chair next to Kagome. But thank you for helping. Especially after yesterday. Except I'm not at all sure I did the right thing. In the future, let's discuss and think things through before acting, alright? In the future? She smiled. Well, we still haven't found your father. And haven't learned what happened to your parents. That too. So you want to keep helping me? Only if you act more sensibly from now on. A terrible word. Makes me feel psychotic or something. Kagome laughed. For the first time since we met, I felt comfortable around her. It's not about the choice of words, but their meaning. That's easy to say when you don't hear those words directed at you all the time. Are you going to keep comparing me to everyone? Even after today? I will not. Not for now, at least. Why, thank you. By the way, how's your restaurant? Same as always, she responded with surprise. Why are you asking? No reason. I just thought you must be worried about other stuff, Lena. It's work. Kagome shrugged. Someone has to do it. Grandpa counts on me. Our employees and customers too. Sounds very Japanese. Is that a bad thing? No. Just seems a little bit weird from my point of view. Why? Well, because. I don't know. Alright, never mind. Kagome didn't respond, and I also didn't know how to continue the conversation. What are we going to do next? Wait. Wait for what? Kobayashi Jun's reaction. We've got no other options left. Are you sure he'll react? I would in his place. She responded seriously. So long then. You at school. I wanted to see her to the station, but Kagome refused. So what would happen tomorrow? Had we even done the right thing? Had I done the right thing by allowing Kagome to interrogate Ellie? Would Ellie spill everything to her grandfather? My own troubles with the calls and the note had long faded into the background. I was convinced they were closely connected to Kagome's situation, and I would need to come back to them at some point. What does something as simple as a couch mean to a man? And why did I live in a traditional Japanese home when neither I nor my parents were Japanese? Even if the building itself was, say, gifted to us or given for temporary use, the furnishing clearly should have been chosen by Mom and Dad. Were they fine even with this after the modest adornments of the Soviet Khrushchev-era apartments? Maybe so. Truth be told, I didn't know much about interior design, but I definitely remember that our old Soviet flat had a couch. It was red with a black pattern, on springs. Jumping on those springs, I used to almost reach the ceiling, feeling like a cosmonaut on his way to the moon. Maybe I should have bought something like a couch myself and put it in front of the TV. We also had a couch in our living room, several even, although they were very different from those of my childhood. Yet another ringing of the doorbell distracted me from the memories. What if it was a couch salesman with a fresh catalog? Standing on my doorstep was just Michael. Hey, something happened? I definitely hadn't expected to see him here. How did he even know my address? Hey, nothing. All good. Let's go? He said in his usual even tone. Where? To the movies. I sometimes found Michael's brevity tiring, even a bit maddening. Why not say everything right away and avoid the meaningless clarifying questions? You could clearly see I had zero idea what he was talking about. Which movies? The ones we agreed to go to. I do not at all know what you're talking about. Michael let out a sigh. You were the one who asked me to go 2 weeks ago. Oh, well, 2 weeks ago. To me, that was like last century. I guess. So, should we go? Well, let's go. I shrugged. I didn't have any plans for the evening anyway. Michael didn't even flinch and kept looking at me. And the tickets? You can just buy them there, right? Not even remember what the movie's about? All the tickets are long sold out. You said you'd buy them in advance. Well, I didn't, as you can tell. Or maybe I did but forgot. No, I wasn't suffering from memory loss yet. I hoped. A pity. Looking at him, you wouldn't say he actually felt bad for it. There's been a hell of a lot happening lately. Wanna come in? I still need to do some homework. What do you found time for a movie? I smiled and opened the door wider, inviting him inside. Want some? I took out the bottle with the remaining whiskey. We've got school tomorrow. Yeah, as if you'd agree on any other day. Michael was on the side of good, an exemplary straight A student. He kept himself reserved from the pleasures of life. And you shouldn't either. In a different situation, you'd be right. If there was someone else in my place. Is everything that bad? We walked to the garden and sat down on the porch. The weather cleared up after the nice rain. The outside was dominated by real summer weather. I love to be in the countryside, in nature. Meets we had an entire village house with a real grandma and grandpa. Said it's been a while since I visited here. There. Bad? Depends on what you compare it to. Starving children in Africa probably have it worse. Is it because of Catherine? I smiled. It was funny to hear Michael call a girl he didn't know by her first name. We were still in Japan, even if not Japanese ourselves. No, different stuff. Say, what do you know about Kobayashi Ellie? Don't know her personally. Well, you must have heard something. He thought a moment and didn't respond immediately. People say a lot about her. Why don't you ask Kyosuke? What do you think? Probably tell me the size of her chest, but not anything substantial. He's respected at school, even by the teachers, which doesn't come as a surprise. She's a Kobayashi after all. But there are rumors that things aren't all that simple with her. Not as... Michael tried to find the right word. Obvious. Gotcha. What's so unobvious about her? Well, you for instance can afford to have a glass or two. And? They say she has a few bad habits too. Even with its relative novelty, calling rock music a bad habit seemed weird. We weren't in the 60s anymore. Like what? I don't really know. I prefer not to talk about people behind their backs. Just telling you what I've heard. Everyone knows about it. Yeah, everyone besides me. Michael shrugged. And what about our class representative, Iwamura? What about her? I definitely wasn't about to tell Michael about our adventures, but I also found it difficult to pick a different reason to be interested in her. Let's say she's not a simple girl either. It is weird that you don't know anything even about your classmates. Well, that's how I am. Don't have much to say about her. You must have noticed she doesn't get along with others. I have. Wouldn't even say that get along is the most fitting term here. Yeah, I guess. I don't know anything else though. Still, thanks. For a while, we both sat there silently. It's strange that you're interested in other girls when you... He faltered for a moment. It shouldn't happen with him often. When you've gotten a chance to restore your relationship with Catherine. There's plenty of fish in the sea, you know. Not that I'm involved with either of them romantically. In my heart, I was grateful to Michael for the chance to talk peacefully, share something personal, and be sure that the entire school wouldn't find out about it the next day. Must be weird to hear something like that from me, huh? No. It's weird that you've never talked about anything like that before. You mean I wasn't interested in girls? I was barely interested in anything, really. Well, I was interested in movies. I grinned stupidly. Stupider still because I didn't even remember inviting him. By the way, there's supposed to be a good movie on TV soon. Not the one we were supposed to see, but still. Want to watch it? Why not? When Michael left, the city had already been engulfed by the soft embrace of the unusually warm autumn night. I had no desire to sleep, and, warmed by the alcohol, went on to look for an adventure. The adventure awaited me behind the doors of the familiar bar. Okay, that's supposed to be someone, but I don't know who. Inside it was loud, filled with smoke and reeking of booze. It's normal for the Japanese to have a drink or two after work, when hanging out with friends or on a date. It was considered acceptable, sometimes even obligatory. What kind of corporate event would it be without eating and drinking? The only problem was that most of them had little to no tolerance for alcohol. 2 or 3 beers was usually enough to take them out, call a taxi, or carry them home on your back. That's why I didn't like drinking with the Japanese. No matter what, in an hour's time you were left alone. At that point you're just wasting booze. Oi, Kolya. Bartender's greeting reached me through the noises of the crowd. He peeked over the heads of the people at the counter. Why had I chosen this bar and come here so often? I couldn't see it was close to my house, and the bar sort of resembled Soviet... Ryumachnoya. What's that? Let's find the Ryumachnoya. This type of snack bar that was popular in the USSR and mostly served strong alcoholic drinks. Okay. And definitely not because of the bartender. Hey there. What can I get you? I'll go for whiskey. Double whiskey. Whoa. Something happened? Yeah. Life happened. Is it that bad? Worse than usual. I'd love to hear about it, but work is aplenty as you can see. He smiled apologetically, poured me a glass and was about to take the bottle away. I stopped him by carefully grabbing his arm. Leave it be. I'm partying tonight. Kolya, do you know how much this whiskey costs? I don't, and I don't care. You have nothing over 5,000 yen anyway. True enough. Bartender guffawed and raced to the other end of the bar to greet a just-right middle-aged man with reddish cheeks. Without the bartender around, there was little sense sitting at the counter, so I moved to a free table. The waitress approached me right away. It could be found here on the weekends. I coldly told her that I wasn't hungry, and didn't let her slip me a menu. Watching the drinking layman was a kind of entertainment too. They didn't really care about being overheard by others, many shouting as loudly as they could. Visiting any bar in Tokyo on Sunday evening, you might learn that sales manager Ibashi secretly hates his boss, that secretary Minomi-chan cheats on her husband, and Big Boss Toki-san fears so much for his children's future that he can't sleep properly. Next day, they'd all go to work in a good mood, even if they couldn't manage to recall what they'd done or said the night before. I looked at the full bottle of whiskey. And as for me, is this seat taken? A young woman in a strict red business suit was standing in front of me. A European. I looked around the pub and realized that there were no other free seats. No? Oh, sorry, I'm just... She laughed and put down one of the complicated cocktails from the bartender's vast collection. It's rare to meet a non-Japanese person here. Oh, I didn't mean. It's my first time here and I don't know you. Sorry again. She was clearly tipsy, laughed a lot, and had entered a condition wherein a decent lady needs but a half glass of champagne to become a chiffonnier. Highly sophisticated, but still a piece of furniture. Nonetheless, I was glad to have company, especially a woman's. My entire life couldn't revolve around two girls who didn't know what they want. I guess you're right. I'm probably the only European to have visited this bar in its entire history. Not counting the bartender, of course. I smiled, trying to look friendly. Do you come here often? You look to be about 25, perhaps older. Sometimes. Do you like this place? I've been asking myself the same question a couple minutes ago. It's more like I'm used to it. Interesting. Said vaguely and riveted her eyes on me. You must be a student? Yes, sort of. For some reason, I couldn't lie persuasively to her and started to avert my eyes. I couldn't say I was just a high schooler. Told I? How did you guess? He just seemed to be kind of handsome and intelligent young man must study there. She abruptly stretched her hand out to me. Irène Dupont. Parlez-vous français? Bruh. I was embarrassed by responding with a handshake. Nikolai Anokin. Oh, so you're from the USSR? And without letting me say a word, continued. Moscow is a wonderful city. I've been there. Kremlin, the Red Square. Are you from Moscow? Maybe from Leningrad. Magnificent place. Fabulous museums. Are you from there? AKA St. Petersburg. For those who don't know. You could say I'm from here. Oh, that's interesting. I've just arrived recently. Strange. I could barely hear an accent. I work as an attaché at the embassy. Everything here is so... Irene spread her arms. Should I call her Irene or Irene? I guess Irene. Clearly showing how exactly so everything was. But unfortunately, I don't really have much free time. Like today we went out with my Japanese colleagues, but I lost them already. What a goofball. She broke into loud laughter. Can you imagine? It happens. Bro, I don't trust her. I was flattered by the attention of a girl like this. Or, I should say, a woman. Her beauty wasn't the same kind as the girls I knew. Maybe Ellie, but even she lacked Irene's mature charm. But here I am now, sitting all alone. Oh, sorry, I meant to say with you. Of course, with you. She covered my hand with bro. Thank you, Nikolai, for accompanying me, this poor, silly mademoiselle. Thanks to you too. But enough about me. What about you? What do you study? She straightened up and removed her hand. Well, I don't even know. What a dumb thing to say. We just have some general subjects for now. Haven't chosen my major yet. Maybe something in liberal arts. Can you do that? She asked with surprise. That's what I would have really liked to know myself. Of course, it's Todai after all. It's good to be young, Irene said. I decided it was my opportunity. Come on now. If not for your suit, I think you were a student as well. She laughed. Do they make diplomats work on the weekends too? On weekends, on holidays, and believe it or not, on July 14th. Even July 14th? That's not too far. What's July 14th? July 14th. July 14th, 1789 in Paris, France. Oh. It's revolutionary insurgents stormed and seized control of the medieval armory, fortress, and political prison known as the Bastille. At the time, the Bastille represented royal authority in the center of Paris. Since then, the 14th of July is being celebrated as France's National Day. Yeah, not like in the USSR at all. Workers' rights, the Internationale. Let's sing, Nikolai. Irene, I don't think that... Come on, they're singing their enkas. How are you worse? The drunk cook in the corner was indeed tunelessly belting out a love song. Enka? What was that? Japanese style of music that culturally resembles Russian romance, American country music, and Portuguese fado. Also, like, uh, what was that one song from Yakuza called that was a meme? Dame dame, dame yo. You know, forgot the name of the song. I still think we'll be misunderstood, but that does not country, I guess. Do you care about other people's opinions so much? Don't you? You're a diplomat. For a second she froze, her eyes cleared up, and certain awareness and even coldness appeared in her gaze. But the next moment she burst out laughing again. My god, I'm so drunk. Nikolai, has anybody ever told you that you're handsome? I'd be lying if I said no. And can I also say that? I didn't know what to think. Half an hour ago I considered myself an adult, or at least was sure that I could behave like an adult in any situation. Now it turned out that it took only one drunk French girl in a dilapidated bar to shatter these assumptions. On the other hand, Irene looked very attractive, even too attractive. While talking, I managed to down a third of the bottle. By then it would have set sights even on Sayajan. Nikolai, you're looking at me so... The whiskey washed away the last remnants of my tippiness. That's the way anyone would look at a beautiful woman like you if they were in my place. Nikolai, you're saying this to a woman you just met. But our acquaintance doesn't have to end here, does it? Irene blushed, now seemingly from more than just alcohol, and leaning towards me whispered in my ear. Let's get out of here. Bro, this is not okay, this is a trap. This is a trap, bro. My hands were shaking and I dropped a few large bills on the table. Please, monsieur. She stood up unsteadily and stumbled for the exit. I leaped to her immediately and offered a hand, which she grabbed right away and sagged against. Bro, this is a trap. This is bad for us. Finally, fresh air. When we emerged onto the street, she made a deep breath and pressed herself to me. We should catch a car. Don't catch a car, bro. Oh no. I doubt somebody. No, that's the bad car. That's the Yakuza car that. Oh no, bro. Oh no. Watch and learn. He laughed, walked closer to her all the way and waved her hand. I couldn't believe my eyes when a minute later a car stopped. Of course, this is Black Horse. Bro, why can't you see this? Why can't you see this? But I mean, you're drunk, I guess. Okay. And what a car. An executive black sedan. You would have thought, bro. Apparently, I was the only one struck by her beauty. Hop in. Oh, don't do it, bro. Irene called to me merrily. Well, it seemed that the fairy godmother had lost her magic wand in a bed, because Cinderella was going to come back from the ball with company. And what's more, in a carriage instead of a pumpkin. Don't do it, bro. You did it. Oh my fucking god, bro. Why did you get in the car? Why did I not have a choice? To get in the car or not? Why did I not have a choice, bro? It was such an obvious trap from the very beginning. At first, I didn't even pay attention to the fact that the car's windows were blacked out. Well, Nikolai, you're obviously not pretending, Irene said calmly. What? Let's go. Nodded to the driver and looked at me with such antipathy that I started fidgeting in the seat. Irene, what's going on? The drunk joyfulness vanished without a trace. My name is Irina Mostovaya. Major Irina Mostovaya. KGB. Ah, bruh. Okay, it's not Yakuza, bro. It's the KGB. It's like 10 million times worse. And only then did I realize she was speaking Russian, with no hint of an accent. I mean, yeah, why would a Russian girl have an accent? No matter how long you learn a language that is different from your mother tongue, no matter how long you live in a foreign country, it will always be clear you weren't born and raised there. That's how it seemed to me, at least. Is this a joke? I still didn't fully realize what was happening. But I'd like to ask you, what does this have to do with me? Do you really not recognize me? She frowned. No. Did I? Never mind. From here on, you only answer my questions and only with relevant and concise answers. Do you know what happened to your parents? They got in a car accident. They died. I remember I was sitting in the back, so I survived. Is that not true? I am the one asking questions here. And if you want to hear the answers, I expect a dialogue, I said with unexpected determination. Irina beat her lip angrily. Yes, they died in a car accident, but their death wasn't a coincidence. That's all you need to know for now. What do you know about their work? So my parents were murdered because of their work? Yes. He gave a short response. Kobayashi Corporation. It wasn't a question. What do you know? I know nothing. You're interrogating the wrong person. I'm just a student, and what's more, an orphan. You must already have realized that Kobayashi Corporation wouldn't be interested in a mere student. But why me? Irina didn't respond. Tokyo was slowly moving by on the other side of the windows. I had no idea where we were going, and I didn't care. It was unlikely they were going to kill me. That performance in the bar was probably just a test. To my surprise, I was able to think clearly and analyze the situation with a sober mind. Yeah, it's called adrenaline, bro. That's what we'd like to find out. All these calls to my house, were they made by the corporation? No, they were from us. Of course, bro, they spoke Russian. What do you mean, the corporation? We wanted to warn you. You didn't feel compelled to heed to our warnings. What should I do then? Are you sure you don't know anything? Again, maybe your father told you something and you forgot about it. Maybe he left something to you. Papers? Documents? No. I really couldn't recall anything like that. We were a completely normal family. So, in your view, a family of Soviet engineers who fled the USSR and started working for the biggest transnational company in Japan is normal? Irina smirked. Apart from that, everything was normal. Was it? Or do you simply not remember? Even if... I couldn't believe my parents had been involved in something they could be killed for. Even if what you say is true, I don't know anything about that. I've never known. I find it hard to believe. You can believe whatever you want. I started using the polite version of Russian you without thinking. But still, it was all clearly related to me somehow. My family. Kagome's father and Kobayashi Corporation. Having them believe as much was already enough. Nikolai. Irina sighed. Have you completely forgotten about your obligation to our motherland? I don't remember having any in the first place. Her eyes flashed, but she managed to stay calm and continued. Do you think you have it better here, in a country that killed your parents? Why should I trust you anyway? Better? I don't know, but until recently I've been living a peaceful life, before you dragged me into this. We didn't drag you into anything. On the contrary, we're trying to protect you. What wonderful protection. What does it amount to exactly? Irina sighed. In order to receive something, you need to give something in return first. But I don't have anything. Stop mocking me. She shouted suddenly. You know everything. Just tell me what the Japanese want and we can bring you home. Or do you think you've managed to fool me? Why would you think they need something from me? If you are the ones who called. At the moment, it's none of your business. Then what do you expect from me? Irina calmed down in an instant and studied me with an unblinking stare for some time. Fine, we'll handle it ourselves. You keep your head down, stay away from all this. That's it? That simple? Would you like it to be complicated? I still have questions. Which won't be answered if you want to live. If you're telling the truth, and the less you know, the better. Only sources of information have value. Ordinary students are of no interest to anyone. But be prepared to remain under surveillance for a while. By you? Us, among others. Or do you want an accident to happen to you as well? I felt a strong dislike towards this woman. I couldn't believe that just 5 minutes ago I had been hoping for some quick sex with a random acquaintance. Although in a way I got what I wanted, except I was the one getting fucked. Okay, I like this one. I like this line. One more thing. Behave normally. Nobody should know we've talked. Anything can expose you. Go to school, hang out with your girlfriends, drink, nothing else. The car stopped smoothly. We've arrived. Get out. I could make out the silhouette of my house behind the window. Hope Himisu doesn't see me brought home like this. I had a time to think. And keep in mind, we do not repeat ourselves. So do yourself a favor and remember everything I've just told you. The luxurious black sedan with blacked out windows disappeared around the corner almost silently. I stood at the entrance to my yard, mindlessly watching it go. That's when I started to shake. Almost spasm in fear. How had I managed to remain outwardly calm and think straight? It's called adrenaline, bro. My legs carried me to my house on their own accord. I closed the door. And the garden door. And another one. And all the windows. I had so many windows. I wish I had a gun. Oh, that door does nothing. Like, you can break to it instantly. Doesn't really make much of a difference if it's closed or opened, really. I lay in bed staring into the darkness with dry eyes. It was obvious that Czechists? The Czechists wouldn't come back. Not what that means. At least, not today. I'm assuming he means the KGB, but Czechists. What about the Japanese? They kept me under surveillance. They could have seen me hop into that car. The only hope I had was that those KGB agents knew what they were doing. Kagome, why did you drag me into? Oh, some tapes? Nice. What does the paperback's ink smell like? Smells like the freshly painted walls of a hospital. An administrative building of something utilitarian. It smells like the hectic rhythm of a big city. You can fit Joyce, Steinbeck, Dostoevsky, or Kagome into the tiny pages of a paperback, which turn yellow after just a couple months. Their thoughts expressed in sweeping prose would be stunted and suffocated by the uneven, ugly lines. I much preferred solid, massive books with hard covers. Just holding them in your hands, feeling their weight, is enough to guess at the endless wisdom hidden inside. The Japanese people like everything fast and simple, and have eagerly exported the convenience to the other countries of the free world. What would Leo Tolstoy have said if he saw War and Peace retold in manga form? Of course, this arrogant attitude didn't fit my current situation at all. It's easy to engage in intellectual snobbery when the most danger you face in life is an argument over Jack Kerouac. But I was being threatened by very real and, more importantly, very much alive people. First Kobayashi Corporation, and now the KGB too. I guess somewhere deep inside I wanted to restore my connection to the motherland. But I couldn't imagine, even in the worst of my nightmares, that the motherland not only remembered me, but had also been monitoring my life for the last 10 years. But the image of a sword-wielding woman grew hazy and soon faded away entirely together with the dream, when I was snapped awake by the doorbell. I immediately jumped off the bed and aimlessly looked around my room, as if it was the first time I'd seen it. Everything was in order, but everything also seemed alien and somewhat artificial, like a copy, or like Crime and Punishment squeezed into the tiny body of a paperback. After a minute, once I'd already decided it had been part of my dream too, the bell rang again. Think. I tried to rev up my still sleeping brain. Czechists don't use doorbells. Okay, now I explain the thing. Czechist is an informal name for security officers in the USSR. This thought slightly calmed me down, and I walked to the door on stiff legs. Who's there? My voice was trembling, bad enough that it wouldn't go unnoticed. Who's there? I repeated when I didn't get an answer. Nico-kun. Jesus, you scared me. I opened the door and found Himitsu behind it, seemingly no less scared than I. Why'd you ring? Well, you locked yourself. Locked myself? At first I couldn't understand what she was talking about. After all, Himitsu had the key. Then I looked at the boulder I had locked firmly yesterday. What time is it? It's time to go to school. Nico-kun, is everything alright with you? Yes. I tried to smile but did a shitty job of it. Just not very used to being woken by my doorbell. Himitsu carefully walked after me to the kitchen, looked around like she'd broken into the house. What? I exploded. You think I'm hiding someone here? No, just... I'm actually a bootlegger. I make moonshine in the basement. Nico-kun, you don't have a basement. Oh, right. Himitsu was making breakfast, while I sat behind a table feeling my armpits drip with sweat. So, Irina had told me to behave normally. In any other context, nothing would be easier. For almost a year and a half now, I'd been surviving in a semi-vegetative state, not least because of Himitsu. But now, having met Ellie and Kagome, having been granted an audience by Kobayashi-Jun himself, was there anything normal left in my life? It was stupid to think that everything would just get back to normal, as if following the wave of a magic wand. And then there was Catherine. Nico-kun, Himitsu called out to me, indignant. What? I'm asking, do you want toast with jam or butter? What, we have jam? You don't, she pouted. But I brought some. I hadn't even noticed whether she had a bag or a purse in her hands. Well, jam then. Ah man, I also eat jam. But I don't eat honey for breakfast. I found it hard to force myself to eat, but I also didn't want to provoke further questions from Himitsu. It's delicious. Thanks. By the way, you do remember the school festival is coming up, right? No, the festival was the last thing on my mind. I felt like a lone wolf avoiding other people. Of course, wolves are weaker than tigers and lions, but they don't perform at festivals. What are you guys preparing? Well, we're thinking we'd organize a cafe. Of course, classic. He responded, embarrassed. A maid cafe? Let's go. Cafe? Yeah, that's a good idea. A maid uniform will look great on you. Hell yeah. Why'd you assume I'd be a waitress? Mitsu asked with indignation, even placing her chopsticks down on her plate. Won't you? Maybe. If you want. I was actually going to cook. Oh, well, okay then. Naturally, I wasn't interested in this conversation in the least. I continued to seem to find my opinion important. So, do you want me to... do you want me to wear that costume? If that's what you want. Nico-kun. What's the right answer? Don't you dare even come to our class. Who'll stop me? Then I won't step out of the kitchen. Alright, guess I'll check out the other girls. The class has some good ones. Nico-kun. I managed to distract myself for a while, but once we were out on the street, I was seized by an incomprehensible fear. I felt like every lamppost hit a KGB agent or one of the corporation's people. Or maybe they'd already formed a queue to plant a bullet in my forehead. We didn't get to school too late or too early, or just in time to meet Himitsu's classmates. We had stuff to do, and my only task for the time being was to behave normally, which more or less meant doing nothing, just existing. Of course, it could seem like I was laying about, but on the cellular level, I was extremely busy. As always, Kyosuke greeted me merrily once I got to class. Well, Nick, how was your weekend? To be honest, I wish I'd spent it differently. Did something happen? Tell me. Imagine you go to an onsen with your family only to find it's been taken over by terrorists. I have no clue what you're talking about, but I already want to hear every detail. At that moment, Kagome entered the classroom and, with her head cast down, slipped over to her desk. I wanted to talk to her, of course, but I wasn't sure I'd be able to hide yesterday's conversation with Irina. With how impulsive she was, knowing about it wouldn't do her any good. But besides the impulsiveness, Kagome also had an inquisitive acumen, and the very thought of her drilling glare made me feel uncomfortable. Come on, Nick, the bell's about to ring, asked my secretary. After these words, the lesson finally started. But I still hadn't managed to come up with a way to talk to Kagome. Our last meeting hadn't exactly gone very well, even though I'd taken her side in the argument with Ellie. And I couldn't get Ellie's upset face out of my mind. I was both blaming myself and taking on a part of Kagome's guilt. After all, it happened in my house, and as a host, it was my responsibility. As for Kagome, I didn't think she'd leave me alone anytime soon. We'd have plenty of opportunities to talk. Oh, you have people on the floor now. It's a hallway, I mean. Thanks to Kyosuke, I knew which class Ellie was in, but that didn't make my task any easier. Looking from the outside, nobody would call me unsociable. Rude? Maybe. Or even insensitive. But I was good at avoiding unfamiliar situations and new people, which made me appear confident. And of course, someone who does nothing makes no mistakes. In any case, the thought of walking into another classroom and possibly talking to Ellie in front of everyone made me feel uneasy. It'd be one thing if she was a normal girl like Himitsu or Kagome. Luckily, I didn't find Ellie there, and nobody even glanced at me. Everyone had their own problems to worry about, of course. I was about to go back when I remembered that she had a part of the school all to herself. Of course, I heard the chorus of one of Zed Field's songs from the old classroom. Got you. I stormed into the room and Ellie, caught off guard, almost dropped her guitar. Are you out of your mind? Okay, sorry. I really didn't know what had gotten into me. The impulse had spurred me to action before my prefrontal cortex had realized what was happening. By the way, we still haven't been introduced properly. Ellie immediately interrupted me. I heard that girl, what's her name, Iwamura, calling you Nick. That's enough for me. Yeah, of course, what was I expecting? Really, Nico-kun? Nico-san, actually. Well, I remember there. I said my name is Nikolai, but yeah, you can call me Nick. So Nick, what do I owe the honor? You're going to interrogate me again? I put the guitar on the piano, opened the curtains, and looked out the window as if expecting to see someone outside. I just wanted to apologize for yesterday. You don't think I have something against you? I don't. Suddenly, Ellie turned to me and smiled cutely, very unexpectedly. Well, just, you know, Kagome Iwamura, she really is in a difficult situation. I suddenly felt a bit uncomfortable being alone with this girl. I tried to loosen the knot in my tie, but it was almost undone anyway. I feel sorry for her, but as I've already said, I can't help you too. Not us. You've been protecting her with such passion, I thought. She gave me a sly look. Oh, you forgive me if I was mistaken. There's nothing between us, if that's what you mean. We didn't even know each other until a week ago. Aren't you in the same class? How is that possible? It just is. I grumbled. Talk to me a little longer and you'll see a lot of things you never thought possible. Okay, Nick. To be honest, I also overreacted yesterday. No, you didn't. Ellie raised her hand sternly, ordering me not to interrupt her. If the girl wants to apologize, you better hear her out. It does not happen every day. As you say, Ojo-sama. So, I understand that your friend's issues are somehow related to my grandfather's business. But you should also understand I'm not your personal customer support. If everyone had a problem with my grandfather tried to go through me, I hope you understand. I do. And I did tell you one more that she shouldn't have done that. But the situation still didn't feel right and it was bugging me. After all, it was about human life, not a broken TV. But what? Nothing. Forget it. Oh no. Finish what you started. I think she's so hard to talk to. I just wanted to say that there are different situations, and in some you should try putting yourself in the other person's shoes. If I always have to worry about other people, when am I supposed to live for myself? Ain't she an Ayn Rand? I know what that means. You don't care that a person is missing? Killed, maybe? I finally lost my temper. I raised my voice. There are people dying every minute. I was looking at her beautiful, fair face. I couldn't understand whether this was cynicism or something else. But it's in your power to help some of them. Even if I could. She suddenly perked up. How do you know she's telling the truth? I talked to your grandfather in person. And how do I know that you aren't lying? Why would I? Why? She did it like she was weighing the word on her tongue. What if you need something from me? Like what? Money? Status? Power? Same thing everyone needs. What if you're thinking about... Ali got completely flustered and blushed. Do I look like the kind of person to think that far ahead? She carefully examined me from head to toe and smirked. Yeah, you don't. I was glad that tension seemed to have subsided somewhat. You come here often, huh? I'd like to keep that between us. Sure. I get enough of an audience at my concerts. Suddenly, Ellie appeared like a very lonely, simple, and understandable girl to me. I guess it's hard to be the center of attention. I guess. I found it hard to even step into your classroom today. I don't know why I'm saying that. She didn't respond, but the blush on her cheeks looked to me like it expressed gratitude. Alright, I better go. I hope your friend finds her father. I hope so too. I didn't want to tell her that Kagome clearly wasn't done with her. This most likely wasn't our last conversation. I returned to the classroom right before the bell rang and took my seat. My eyes naturally shifted to Catherine, who was sitting close and looking out the window with a bored expression on her face. Maybe I'd recently gained problems more important than unrequited love, but we never sorted our relationship out. Moreover, somehow the acute need to deal with it at any cost had disappeared as well. These thoughts made me uncomfortable, and I felt a light shiver run down my back. On one hand, I was berating myself for being so faint-hearted. A small earthly issue could not possibly eclipse the great feeling. On the other, Somewhere deep inside, I was glad that all these spy games had at least somewhat lessened the intensity of my angst. I'd been reveling in my unrequited love for Catherine for so long that as soon as I had to deal with something urgent, I simply didn't know what to do. Moreover, I had no clear strategy for how to react to a situation like this, or when I had to move on. For the last year and a half, I had been living as if in anabiosis, my thoughts stuck in that day when we saw each other at last, and the day I learned that Katya had left forever. To some extent, I found existing like this comfortable, and Himitsu did her best to keep it that way. Naturally, Catherine's return had been a shock, not only because it broke the monotonous flow of black and white days. I found myself in a situation in which I had to face the source of my pain again, except that this Catherine was completely different from the one I used to know. No, I couldn't say she had changed to the point of becoming unrecognizable in such a short time, but in everything, actions, words, gestures, I was constantly catching glimpses of something unknown, unfamiliar. I desperately wanted a candid conversation with her, dreaming to explain or even prove something, but at the same time, I was terrified of the cold look and a sarcastic smirk as a response. Of course, a very different one from before. An adult, experienced one that had lost its old shine and exchanged youthful enthusiasm for mature prudence. I was afraid to see Catherine like that, because in contrast with her, I looked even more infantile and neurotic than before. The unknown scares us the most. The majority of people would prefer to keep stewing in the cauldron of their daily, understandable, stable hardships, rather than take a small chance to improve their lives. The same way I had gotten used to the status quo where we were separated by thousands of miles. It was comfortable enough to wear the badge of a man suffering for his love undeservedly, to pity myself, and occasionally cry into my pillow at night. As a man with a wounded heart, I would always have support, if only from Himitsu. Why cure a disease that isn't life-threatening if it means the government gives you a nice pension? But I couldn't just ignore Katya's return to my life. I'd clearly been showing things couldn't continue like this. I had to either deal with the real Catherine or stop this pathetic carnival of self-pity. We still have to sort out our relationship, even if that's where it would end. Patiently waited until the end of the day. I didn't want to bother her during a break. After all, such a conversation required more time. I was standing at the school gate, shifting my weight from one foot to the other. I had run out of class with the last bell, so this time there was no way I'd miss Katya. I never found the appropriate words to start a conversation. Not that it really mattered. After all, the topic remained the same. Students were passing by, paying no attention to me. Alone, in couples, even in groups. Frowning, laughing, and chatting with each other. Staring at their feet and noticing no one. Angry and seemingly upset with someone. And with welcoming smiles on their beautiful faces. Why is it that if you're rich, you're necessarily also handsome to boot? Except for Kyosuke and me, that seemed to be the case for the majority of students in our school. As if there was an invisible slot machine only equipping the chosen few, dealing out advantage after advantage. And when it was then the turn of simpler people, we'd be lucky to at least get away with good health. Well, I had. At least physically. Nikko-kun. There was Himitsu. I should have realized that her classes were over too. Nikko-kun, are you waiting for someone? Yeah, no. Well, my determination seemed to have vanished at once. In front of Himitsu, I felt like some idiot telling his mother he wasn't going to go into university, because his dream was to flip penguins at the South Pole. His mind was made, but Mom was sure to be upset. No worries. If I'm interrupting something, then... You're not interrupting anything. Here you are. As if Himitsu wasn't enough, Kagome was approaching me determinedly. We need to talk. Yomura-senpai. Oh, seems like I interrupted something. I won't keep him busy for long, told Himitsu. Himitsu in turn gave me a questioning look. A minute ago I was about to start sorting out my relationship with Catherine. 30 seconds ago I was trying to figure out how to not upset Himitsu while doing that. Now I was taken aback by Kagome's assault. You know, not everything in the world revolves around you and your problems. Everyone just waits for you to pay attention to them, ready to drop everything and run after you as soon as you call them. But my voice didn't sound very confident. What are you so busy with that's more important than this? But then she also grew embarrassed, casting a quick glance at Himitsu. Of course, Kagome was right in her own way. And I was just afraid to hurt someone, Trying to have my foot in two worlds at the same time. Or maybe even 3 or 4. I had to make a choice. Obviously, not everything in my life revolved around Himitsu. Not all my thoughts were about Catherine. However, before moving forward, one has to understand what they'll have to leave behind. I didn't know what Kagome had come up with this time, and I wasn't in the mood to try and guess. Nevertheless, her unshakable confidence in herself and her own righteousness was somewhat spellbinding. Sorry, I timidly said to Himitsu. I'll wait for you at home. He replied after a moment and walked away, leaving us alone. Are you happy now? I asked Kagome, irritated. I didn't force you, she huffed in response. So what do you want to talk about? Not here. Where then? I was impotently walking after Kagome, another thought in my head, like a sheep following a shepherd's dog. After some time, we found ourselves in the park. A very park so many memories of mine were tied to. Catherine and I used to come here often. She always told me she enjoyed the silence and the opportunity to be alone. Meanwhile, it seemed to me sometimes that she was just embarrassed to be in public together. Anyway, I hadn't talked to Catherine today, and it was Yuamura's fault. I finally raised my eyes and looked at her back. Isn't this enough? What's enough? She slowed her pace and turned around. We're far enough from the school. I doubt there's a spy with a camera hiding behind a great bush. Don't you just love your sarcasm? We stopped on a little curved bridge built over a small spring that met a lake. Kagome leaned on the railing and stared at the water. I didn't know there was a park here. So you were just walking? Randomly? Yes. She gave me a cute and somewhat childish smile. First yellow leaves were reluctantly falling off the trees. One of them, however, deftly glided down onto Kagome's head and got stuck in her hair, but she didn't notice. You look like a sensible person sometimes, but that's only a front, isn't it? Oh look, there's a leaf. What do you mean? Never mind. What did you want to talk about? I think we have no other choice but to pursue Kobashi's granddaughter. She really emphasized that we. But wait, let me finish. Kagome raised her hand sternly. I know what you want to say. That she knows nothing, and I'm only making the situation worse. But look at this from a different angle. Even if her grandfather finds out that we've set our sights on her, what's wrong with that? There's so much wrong with that, I don't even know where to begin. We have to shatter their delusions of omnipotence. That's the only way we'll achieve anything. I couldn't figure out if she was serious or not. Of course, there was no reason to suspect Kagome of being delusionally maniacal. But then, what was this? Youthful exuberance? Chatter? Delusions of omnipotence? Are you listening to yourself? All I can imagine is that guy from Kobayashi Jun's office shattering in my face. You're just scared. Yes, I am. Aren't you? I suddenly frowned. His friend said something very offensive. I don't let fear control my life. And you're just being reckless, albeit consciously. So, are you going to help me or not? What am I even supposed to do? First, talk to that. Kagome clearly had problems with calling people by their names. Ellie, I prompted. Yes, to that Ellie. It's clear that she won't listen to me, but you're quite her type. She smirked sarcastically. What are you implying? Just feminine intuition. Somehow, I didn't want to pry into what that intuition was telling her. Why do you think things will go differently this time? As I see it, Ellie clearly doesn't know that she can't help. But she hasn't even tried. At least ask her. I don't know. To do something. Talk to her grandfather or anyone else who has real power. Then why would she listen to me? Convince her. How? I don't know how. Come up with something. She got angry and stomped her foot. The school official in bias immediately dashed away. For whatever reason, you overestimate my persuasiveness. Or you underestimate the impression you've made on her. When have I ever... On the other hand, Kagome was a girl too, despite how she acted. Maybe she had a better feel for this stuff. And if she was saying that, I suddenly felt blood surging to my face and turned away. You don't understand what you're asking. Why? If things go well enough, you might end up the son-in-law of the richest man in Japan. I'm going through a rough patch right now, and I haven't been planning on starting a new relationship, even if just for purely selfish reasons. I don't understand, guys. Don't you like her? I do, but I mean, being attracted to someone's appearance isn't all there is to it. Look at this in their soul. Can you imagine that? I started to feel uncomfortable in the presence of this persistent girl. What if Kobayashi-chun had a grandson, huh? Then what? As far as I know, homosexuality isn't a crime in Japan. Stop joking around. Would you go down on that hypothetical grandson if you needed to? Kagome tried to hold my angry look, but buckled in over her head. I don't see the point in talking about things that don't exist. How convenient. Is that a no? I'll talk to her, but I'm not promising anything else. That seemed like the only way to stop this idiotic conversation. And from now on, please, stop with these dumb ideas. Cheers. I basically ran away from Kagome, feeling, on the one hand, extremely offended, and on the other, inexplicably ashamed, as if my parents had caught me masturbating. Maybe in another situation I'd even feel good about the idea that I might end up in a relationship with Kobayashi Ali. But not now. I was in real danger, and Catherine had returned to Japan. Keanu Reeves, let's go. I was slowly walking home, purposefully choosing the longest route. Home, with Himitsu ready to interrogate me. Home, with the old life that Ellie and Kagome were so desperately trying to turn on its head. I didn't know if that was what Kagome was trying to achieve, or the very thought that things could be different, that not everything had to be tied to Himitsu or Catherine, was stuck firmly in my mind. Naturally, the lights were on. What else could I expect? I tried to open the door as quietly as possible, take off my shoes, and sneak into the kitchen. I always wondered what Himitsu did alone. It seemed like without me, she was in some kind of superposition. We had seen each other that afternoon at the school gate when Kagome took me away. Now it was evening and I was home. Did anything exist between those 2 points in space and time? Did Himitsu? Niko-kun, why are you creeping around? Well then, today was not the day I would find out. I wanted to surprise you. Thanks, you already did this afternoon. Himitsu replied in a tone that made it clear she was upset. You want to talk about it? I sat down next to her and, with surprise, noted that the table was empty, the stove was cold, and all the pots and pans were in their places. I don't know. Should we? If you think we should. Niko-kun, I can see something's happened. That senpai came over to your place on Saturday, and today you two just went out somewhere in the middle of the day. In the middle of the day, I grumbled. You're saying that like we're in some sort of conspiracy. I don't know, Niko-kun. What were you talking about with Iwamura senpai today? It looked like she had something important to discuss with you. Something important? Kagome? I smirked, but immediately called myself. Sure, Himitsu knew that I wasn't a big fan of Japanese formalities, but some degree of over-familiarity, forgivable under different circumstances, towards a girl could really backfire on me. However, she didn't seem to notice, or at least pretended not to. I mean, that's something about school. Himitsu would never believe that. You're hiding something from me. Something happened in the past few days, but you don't want to tell me. What could possibly have happened in my life? Although that wasn't true, even from her point of view. Catherine's return alone was enough. That's what I want you to tell me. She suddenly raised her voice. Sure, I didn't want to drag Himitsu into my problems. I was afraid she'd end up in danger too. It was getting more and more difficult to line up with the excuses under her intense glare. There's nothing between us, if that's what you mean. That's not what I mean. I understand that Kagi-chan is the only thing you can think about right now. Catherine? No. I mean, yes. I mean, of course I think about her. How can't I? Who wouldn't in my place? Maybe it really would be easier this way. And you ask Iwamura-senpai for help. Same way you helped her that time. Even if that was the case, I wouldn't compare the two situations. I had no idea how Kagome would have been able to help me with Catherine. But since Himitsu came to this conclusion herself, it would be a bad tactic to convince her of anything else. Guilty as charged. Sorry. See, Niko-kun, you can't hide anything from me. Himitsu exclaimed gleefully. That seemed like a very inappropriate reaction to me. If you really wanted someone else to talk to Kagi-chan, you could have asked me. But I had witnessed them talking to each other just a few days ago, and I couldn't say it sounded anything like a conversation between friends who hadn't seen each other in a while. Don't you think it would be a bit inappropriate to ask you to talk with Catherine? Again, typo. Bro. And, well, talk about what? Well, why did you ask Iwamura-senpai to talk with her about? What did I ask Iwamura-senpai to talk with her about? I slowly repeated, throwing out each word as if hoping to find a time to come up with a decent answer. Nikko-kun? Himitsu frowned and came closer. And instinctively moved back and looked aside. Well, you know, Catherine doesn't want to talk to me. And Kagome isn't someone she knows, or at least not someone she's had a fight with yet. I was positive it would take only a couple of minutes if they ever got to know each other. That's not an answer. What did you want them to talk about? Is this an interrogation or something? We'll have something later. For now, answer the question, please. She tried to soften her tone, but somehow that made me even angrier. I'm not obligated to report to you what I talk about and with who. Even if I was trying to protect her, that sounded cruel. I felt like I was the captain of an old ship caught in a storm. I was doing my best spinning the wheel, but my small craft just couldn't hold out against the wrath of the raging waves. Sunshine, I don't want to upset you, but there are things, serious things, dangerous things. This isn't the time to talk about them. Dangerous things, Nikko-kun? What have you gotten yourself into? I haven't gotten myself into anything. Can you just believe me that everything is going to be alright, but I can't tell you the details right now? It just has to be like this. Nikko-kun. Himitsu was fidgeting in her chair, clearly nervous. I suddenly felt hot, so I jumped off the chair, walked to the garden door and opened it. So, you and Yamura-senpai weren't talking about Kaji-chan? I didn't know what to say. Just a minute ago it had seemed like a nice idea, but now the entire lie had come apart ahead of its time. Nikko-kun? What? I turned around and looked at Himitsu. She was about to break into tears. I can't tell you more. You should know more. You shouldn't know more. As soon as I can. Are you in danger? No, of course not. Then why? Why all these mysteries? I want to help. There's nothing you can do to help me. Then I better go. He stood up and slowly walked out. He kept looking out at the moonlight to fill the garden. I didn't know if I had done the right thing by hiding the truth from Himitsu. One thing was for sure. He wouldn't be able to help me in any way. But things would have gotten much more tense. There would be crying, whining, interrogations. Although things could also go completely differently. For now, I was alone with my problems and only had Kagome to talk to. And I was hiding a lot from her as well. All these conversations weren't making me any calmer. Besides, Himitsu didn't make dinner. At times I noticed with some annoyance that hunger came at the least appropriate moments. When you need to sit and think things through calmly, to concentrate on the problem, your stomach starts demanding attention that is desperately needed elsewhere. Feeling like Diogenes really thrown out of his barrel, I opened the fridge in search of something to make dinner with. When a person is hungry, they often want to eat not a salad or an apple, but a very specific set of products, fatty, sweet, salty ones, and their derivatives. That's just how you have evolved. But if you just stuff yourself with enough bread, you will also eventually get full. I've always been annoyed by the unfairness of it. The difference between how you feel before, an acute desire to experience all the wonders of the culinary world, and after, indifference to food, and sometimes even pain from overeating. I was not a talented cook. I wasn't even at the level of your average housewife. My fridge and shelves, like fighters' home front, were unprepared for a culinary battle with an unknown enemy. In the end, I had to find satisfaction in instant noodles. I was idly poking the cold noodles around with my chopsticks when, for who knows what reason, the ring of a doorbell broke the silence of my house. The hand of my clock was about to hit 12, too late for any guests. But I thought that the KGB or the corporation's goons don't give any warning before their visits, someone called me down. Well, well, well. And indeed, the person standing at the doorstep was Catherine. What a pleasant surprise, I said and looked at the street past her shoulder. There was no one out there. You don't look particularly excited. Katya was shifting from one foot to another. It was clear she hadn't come for a cup of bedtime tea and an exchange of school gossip. I just wasn't expecting you. I wasn't expecting anyone so late. Shall I leave? She asked impatiently, not hiding her irritation. No, I'm sorry. Please come in. Having entered the kitchen, Catherine carefully looked around, as if it was a museum. It's like nothing's changed here. What were you expecting? Me? Nothing. She turned around, glanced at me, and smiled. I take it you wanted to talk at school? I didn't know how to respond. Sometimes it was surprising how sharp she was. Sometimes it was scary. But then you found something more important to do. with our class representative, she added, saying the last words with particular disgust. Are you spying on me? Yeah, can't I? Katya replied without a sign of embarrassment. I'm flattered. It was starting to seem like the conversation was going the wrong way, as if I'd been ripped out of reality and wasn't subject to the laws of nature anymore. At the moment, I had more urgent, more important, even essential matters to deal with. And Catherine was flirting with me like the year and a half we had spent apart never happened. I still don't understand what you're trying to get at. Do I need a reason to come here? Maybe you do, I said quietly. Himitsu doesn't. I was looking at Katya and couldn't figure out what was on her mind. On the one hand, of course I was happy she came, and of her own accord too. But on the other, she was clearly here for a reason. Himitsu didn't disappear from my life for years. Is that resentment I hear? Yes, that's exactly it. The words roll off my tongue by themselves, paying no attention to my brain. Part of me desperately wanted to just just jump at Catherine, kiss her, take her to the floor next to Kotatsu. But another voice was quietly yet persistently whispering that she was a very different person from the one I used to know and love. Outwardly, Katya had barely changed after all this time. For some reason, I had the unshakable feeling that I had let a stranger in. Well, apparently I'm not welcome here. She turned around and was about to leave, but I grabbed her by the hand. Wait, I didn't want to offend you, but you must know how this looks from my perspective. You leave without even saying goodbye, then you come back and don't want to talk. And now you're here acting as if nothing's happened. How do you think I'm supposed to react? Catherine gave it a moment's thought, then sat on a chair and fixed her hair with an elegant gesture. I guess you're right. I just didn't know how to start a conversation or how to act. Although, to be honest, she didn't look particularly perplexed. Conversation about what? A week ago, you found a note on your porch. A note? I said slowly. So you were the one who wrote it? What about the handwriting? What handwriting? Catherine was finally surprised. In your notebook. I flipped through your notebook during break when no one could see. Are you sure that was my notebook? What? I borrowed one from a classmate to copy the material. Oh, so... I exhaled and powerlessly sank on the chair opposite from her. Katya, but why? I wanted to warn you, but apparently you don't need my warnings. You know well enough how and who you should talk with. But why? Why not just tell me directly? Well, I am telling you now. And how is it helping? I shouldn't have come here in the first place. No, you've started. Be so kind as to finish. Who's after me? What do you know about my father's work? Ah, so now you're interested. You flashed your eyes and leaned towards me. But yeah, what is this childish resentment? If you know something, please tell me. I suddenly felt terribly uncomfortable about how close we were. Her face was only half a meter away from mine. Sure. She moved away abruptly, crossed her arms over her chest and crossed her legs. The very first day we returned to Japan, I overheard my mom's conversation on the phone. I was talking about you and your parents. And the conversation wasn't a calm one. It's obvious you're in danger. And that's it? I smirked impotently. What else do you want to hear? That's all you can tell me? Can I talk? You didn't even bother to ask your mother what's going on? I talked to her. She asked me to stay out of it and told me it had nothing to do with me. Nothing to do with you, I exhaled. You know what? I agree with her on that. It really doesn't concern you. You've demonstrated your attitude by planting a note. Fucking note with a bunch of mistakes, gotcha. Don't shout at me. What were you expecting after that? I suddenly caught myself. Wasn't this why Catherine couldn't bring herself to come to my place and talk to me openly? Because she was expecting this kind of reaction? Sorry, I didn't want to shout at you. That's the problem. What? You act first and think later. A second ago, I'd intended to be more reserved, but Catherine managed to kill that intention with a single sentence. And you, do you think much before you act? I wonder how many hours it took for you to decide to ditch me without even saying goodbye. Her face finally trembled, and Katya looked like she was about to cry. I sent a letter. That's enough. What else could I do? It has everything. Ah, the letter. I jumped up and marched to my room. Here, take it and sign here. I returned with the unopened letter and threw it at Catherine. The recipient turned out to be unavailable. So you haven't even read it? As you can see. Is that so? Suddenly, her face broke into a little smile. Her reaction appeared pretty strange to me, but I was too angry to pay closer attention to it. Yes, it is. Okay then. She stood up and straightened out her skirt with a careful motion. Nothing else you want to say? I've said enough. Everything I know. If I learn anything else, I'll tell you. You can find that front door yourself. Good night. She bid me farewell in an inappropriately polite tone. When the door closed behind Katya, I dropped to the chair like a sack of potatoes. It was too much for one day. Exhausted, I barely reached the bed and fell onto it without taking my clothes off. Damn. That was intense, bro. I didn't expect Catherine to know anything about this. Okay, I'll end it here. It's been 2 hours. My throat's kind of bad. I can barely talk. This was quite a session here. We did a lot. All the girls got some screen time. We talked to Kobayashi Jun. A lot happened. We talked to the KGB. So at least this is not what it was in the demo anymore. This is not familiar to me at all. So we're new territory. And it's interesting. For now. I can't wait to see where this goes. But for now, it's enough. We'll continue tomorrow. Let's save. Okay. So, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye-bye.